The first stitch we're going to do is called rice stitch, and it comprises of little and large cross stitches. In my needle, in my tapestry needle, I have a dark and a light green crewel wool and 2 strands of darkish yellow. And so that's the equivalent of 8 strands of cotton in my needle. I'm starting in the top left-hand corner of the embroidery hoop. Please double check the size of the finished embroidery to make sure that you're starting in the right place to allow yourself for the little border that goes around it. And put a knot in the end of your thread, and we're going to take the needle down into the canvas so that your knot lies on top, and then come up just a little bit above the knot, the top left hand corner of your work, and we're going to do the first stitch there. The reason the knot is here is that we're going to be working towards the knot, and we'll be able to cut the knot off when we get there because we'll have covered the thread behind it. So the first stitch is going to go across 4 threads diagonally. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to make a large cross stitch like that, and then count 4 threads down from where you started, and then go over that stitch, and we're going to make a large cross stitch. So that's your first stitch. Now we're going to cross each prong of that large cross stitch by coming up in the middle hole and going down in the middle hole on each occasion. So up in the middle hole and down. If you can come up in a hole and go down where you've already stitched, that's better. Obviously on the last one you can't do that. So up in the middle hole and down in the middle hole, and you get a sort of diamond shape in the middle. So the next stitch starts here on the left, top left, and again go down over 4 diagonal threads. So always go top left to bottom right, and always cross bottom left to top right. And then we're going to do the same thing again. So each time crossing the prongs of the cross. And then your third stitch is exactly the same. Now I've almost got to my knot, so I can cut it off because I know that the thread has been covered at the back. So I can cut my knot off before I do any more. I'm going to do 3 more stitches along here, and then I'll join you and we'll do some underneath. If you're left-handed, The only thing I'm going to suggest is that you may find it easier to do your cross in a different way, so in the other direction. So you'll go diagonally over 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's get this right. From top right to bottom left. And then you'll always go from bottom right to top left. So you'll cross in that direction. But you can still stitch the whole squares from left to right because you're going to stitch both ways anyway. There's no benefit in starting on the right. So then you might, I tend to cross anti-clockwise, so you might want to cross that one first. You might find that more comfortable, and then that one. And so on. So the stitch will look the same, it's just it makes it more comfortable for you to stitch as a left-hander. And actually when you do your second stitch, thinking about it, if you go from bottom left to top right, it's actually easier to find your place. As long as you always cross from bottom right to top left. I've done my 6 squares across, my 6 crosses. Before we go any further, can you see that my threads become quite twisted? And you need to keep an eye on this. So just untwist it, turn your needle and untwist it, and the stitch will lie nice and flat if you keep sort of being aware of that. You can use a laying tool, and I'll show you that later on, but that's a good way of just keeping an eye on the thread. Now we're going to go backwards and forwards and do 5 rows in total. So to do the one underneath, you just come up here, so at that corner there on the left hand side, and always go in the same direction. So cross 4 diagonally, and then from bottom left to top right. So always cross from bottom left to top right, and then you can do your little stitches as before. Let me show you what happens when you run out of thread. What you do is you go in the direction of travel, about an inch or so, cut off your thread, and then when you start up again here, you're going to cover that at the back. When you get to it, you can cut it off. So starting up again, I'm going to put my knot more or less in the same sort of place, not through the same hole, and then just carry on. And I'll join you again when we get near the bottom. So just go this way, that way, until you've done 5 rows in total. Now completed 6 stitches across and 5 stitches down, so you've got a rectangle. With the final bit of thread, there isn't anywhere to put it because we don't want to go across to another block. So I'm going to actually put it outside of the work with enough room to actually thread it up at the back and stitch it in. And these are the only pieces that you're going to be stitching in like this at the back. So I've threaded up at the back that thread, and I'm just going to put a couple of stitches in the work and then cut it off.